Hello, good evening, friends, members of the Natural History Museum, Wallace aficionados, members of Wallace's family, fans of Unveilings, generally. Welcome. I'm delighted to be here for what is an historic moment, the unveiling of the world's first ever statue of Alfred Russel Wallace. I was here back in January to unveil his portrait. You know these Wallace unveilings, they're like buses, you know, you wait 100 years and then two come at once. There's many statues of Darwin, and up to now we've had to make do with just one luxuriantly bearded Victorian evolutionist, but not now. Plans for a statue of Wallace at the Natural History Museum began in 1913, but then the Great War intervened and it's been on hold until 2011 when Caroline Catchpole here at the museum gently persuaded George to take up the idea of a statue, which has now come to such wonderful fruition. There's many reasons, I think, why Wallace should be honoured here in this way. He never lost his sense of awe and appreciation and love for the natural world. Feelings which I have also, and which are replenished every time I come here to this museum. So it's entirely appropriate that he should reside here, where those sentiments are so enshrined. Wallace was a brilliant naturalist. He was a prodigious collector of insects, birds, beetles, all manner of creatures. He amassed 126,000 specimens. 70% of them are held here at the museum and are still being studied today. Wallace made an enormous contribution to science, to the understanding of life on Earth. He's regarded as the father of an entirely new field of scientific study, evolutionary biogeography, the study of the distribution of fauna, why animals are where they are. And of course, alongside Darwin, he was the co-discoverer of the primary mechanism of evolution, natural selection. He had a lifelong sense of wonder and was frequently emotionally overcome at the sight of some particular specimen. And this statue beautifully captures this and his adventurous spirit. And at this point, I have to confess I have had a sneak preview of the statue, and it is a stunning piece of work. Perhaps I'll tell you just a brief moment about its evolution, I think is the right word here. This life-size, well, I say life-size, it's 10% bigger than life-size. It's a bronze sculpture. It's the work of Anthony Smith, who has many important commissions to his name, including a highly praised life-size sculpture of Charles Darwin, which resides at Christ's College, Cambridge. It shows Wallace between the ages of 31 and 39, dressed in his expedition clothes, complete with butterfly net and collecting box. The sculpture, as has been described, depicts the moment when Wallace first sees Ornithoptera croesus, the male golden bird-winged butterfly, when he was in the rainforest of the island of Bacan in eastern Indonesia. He's looking upwards in the statue, and when the butterfly is actually installed, if you follow his gaze, you'll actually be able to see a bronze model of the butterfly some distance away on the glass facade of here, Darwin Centre 2. And it's worth repeating the words which Wallace wrote about this moment, because I think this is what's unique about this sculpture. So many statues, the subjects look rather bored or very pleased with themselves. You know, like, hey, I'm a statue, get a load of me. But this is a bit different. This is capturing a moment, and these are the words which you can put into the statue, because this is what Wallace was thinking at that moment. He says, when he sees the butterfly, the beauty and brilliancy of this insect are indescribable, and none but a naturalist can understand the intense excitement I experienced when I at length captured it. On taking it out of my net and opening the glorious wings, my heart began to beat violently. The blood rushed to my head. I felt much more like fainting than I had done when in apprehension of immediate death. I had a headache the rest of the day. So great was the excitement produced by what will appear to most people a very inadequate cause. You see, this sums up Wallace for me. Passionate about the beauty of nature, acknowledging the joy and emotion that nature stirs within us, yet pragmatic, modest, and self-effacing. I feel very privileged to be part of this process, and as has been discussed, this is only one of a series of Wallace related events that have taken place throughout Britain, plays, exhibitions, lectures, all part of this wonderful celebration, Wallace 100. And right now, as we are here, events celebrating Wallace's legacy are happening all over the world. In India, Brazil, Malaysian Borneo, Taipei City in Taiwan, Wakatobi in northern Sulawesi in Indonesia, in New York. Right now, hang on, I've got the time, but I think the time is right. In Boston, USA, Harvard professor Andrew Berry is preparing a talk entitled Evolution's Unsung Discoverer, asking the question, why has Wallace been eclipsed by Darwin in the populist imagination? And finally, and this is my favourite, an exhibition of Wallace's life and work is in the Museum and Gallery of the Northern Territory in Australia. Where in Australia? In Darwin, of course. Of course, the prime mover in this project has been my old pal, Dr. George Beccoloni, to give him his official title, Director of Coleoptera here at the Natural History Museum. And I think, George, what you've done here with your exhaustive research, you've summoned up the spirit of Wallace, I think. The meticulous attention to the accuracy of this sculpture is quite fantastic. The hat, and indeed Wallace's likeness, came from a photograph taken in 1862 in Singapore. But here he was wearing city clothes, not the clothes he would have worn in the field. So these had to be carefully constructed from clues in his writings. There's a small sketch made by Wallace in the Malay archipelago, but it's small and indistinct. You can't really make out what he's really wearing. You can make out it's a loose white shirt, no cravat, and some white trousers. And there's an interesting detail. The trousers have no belt loops, which was the fashion at the time. The shirt is a Victorian gentleman's hunting shirt, which is quite unusual as it had two breast pockets. And he talks of having to roll up his leg to show locals his white skin. So his sleeves would have been pulled down, as they are here. His trousers were tucked into his socks and into his leather boots to stop the leeches getting in, which, as I can attest, is a perfectly viable method even today. He's got a collecting box, which is lined with cork for pinning specimens, and in his right hand is where his butterfly net resides. So, shirt, trousers, boots, hat, kit, beard, all present and correct. This is, of course, the culmination of a lot of hard work by many, many people. George has been shepherding this project since the outset. There have been many donors, many significant contributions. The names have been mentioned so far. I'd like to thank all the speakers and performers and all the people that have been involved in Wallace 100. This has been a fantastic collaborative effort. Thanks to Chris Jennard and all those involved in the Ancestors Trail. And George, I have to say, our respective partners won't forgive us if we don't thank them. So I'd like to thank my wife Chris, and Jan, of course, George's partner, Srila Banerjee, Sir Eric Thomas, Lucy Wainwright, Carolyn Catchpole, Judith McGee, Andy Polachek, Paul Gallagher, and Sherry Louise Rowe for all your fantastic support in this project. I'm particularly delighted for Wallace's descendants, because this is a very, very proud moment for you all. This is a wonderful counterpoint to the portrait that now hangs here, alongside Darwin. Because in that painting, it depicts Wallace as the venerated man of science. Adventuring days long gone, butterfly net hung up. But this is Wallace in his element, during, as he put it, the central controlling incident of his life, his 8 years in the Malay archipelago. So, on behalf of the Wallace Memorial Fund, a profound thank you to all concerned with bringing to the museum Wallace the naturalist, Wallace the explorer, Wallace the man of courage in the name of science. It would be a great pleasure to hand over to Sir David Attenborough, who will say a few words and give back the unveiling. Sir David.
There's not much for me to add to that excellent survey and summary that Bill has just given us all. maybe just two aspects of this very great man, which I might mention. The first is that his sheer, straightforward physical courage and endurance. If you have read his wonderful book on the Malay Archipelago, or rather if you haven't, I recommend you do. It's an extraordinary, wonderful book. And you have to read between the lines to see what endurance that man had for 8 years, travelling in unreliable, leaky boats, native-made boats, from island to island, often without any companions at all, certainly not European companions, living on local food, enduring all kinds of tribulations, with very little medicine, just quinine, that was about it. So that was one aspect which moves me. And the other one is his sheer generosity of spirit and modesty. There are lots of people to make dramas out of the conflict, apparently, between Darwin and Wallace, as to who in fact had priority, who thought of it first, who deserves the credit. It didn't trouble either of those great, very great, generous-spirited men. Darwin said to Wallace that he admired everything he did and he could have written the work just as much as Darwin could. And Wallace said not at all. Darwin had done all the research. And these two men complemented one another all the time. And if you wanted to try and foment some argument between those two men, you won't find any evidence whatsoever. So here is an admirable man, a modest man, a tough man, a generous man, and a great scientist. And I am truly privileged to be able to unveil this statue to you. I haven't seen it either.
Just to say thank you very much for coming, and we